Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today on our webinar for some tips and tricks on getting your Xero data file ready to hand over to our accounting team to prepare your annual accounts. My name's Justine. I'm the software specialist here at McIntyre Dix, and I've probably talked to some of you guys in the past. Just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded. All attendees are on mute. But if you'd like to ask a question, please feel free to drop it into the chat box at the bottom of the screen. We'll answer them as we go along. I'm going to turn my camera off, and then I'm going to share my screen with you so we can have a look at Xero. So just bear with me. Okay, using Xero makes preparing your annual accounts an automated process for our accounting team, because we have the ability to import your data from Xero directly into our software to help prepare your annual accounts. Therefore, it's vitally important that your data is as accurate as it can be before we start your accounts. Let's have a look at Xero. So one of the first checks we make in Xero is whether your bank accounts reconcile. Even though you may have reconciled all your items in your bank accounts, doesn't necessarily mean that this balances to the bank. So here we have a blue button that says reconcile 27 items. You may have a green tick, but we still need to double check that it balances to what the bank feed has said and that the balance is accurate. So I'm going to run a bank reconciliation report. How I do this, these three dots here beside the bank account, which will be just to the right of the bank's logo, is a wee menu. I'm going to click on those three dots and select reconciliation report. Now, once it comes up with the report, I'm going to select some dates that I want to run my report for. I'm going to run this for April to see if we balance and select update. So I can see here my balance in Xero, but I have some unreconciled statement lines, and then my balances at the bottom. What we're looking for is the statement balance and the imported balance match. At this stage, we're going to ignore the statement balance line. We're going to come back to that shortly. But first, our unreconciled statement lines. So we have a transaction dated the 19th of April. I'm going to go back to my bank account and to my reconciliation screen and see if I have a transaction dated the 19th of April. And there it is. So it's waiting for me to code that. So if we code that, as we normally would, I'm going to go back to my reconciliation report. So now I'm in my reconcile screen. I can, on the top right here is reconciliation report. So I now can select this again, enter my dates again. We're looking at April and select update. So now that line has gone. What we're looking for is the balances to all match. Again, as I said, we'll come back to this difference later. If we all match, that's great. It means what our bank is telling us, it's fed in last night as our end bank balance matches to what we've coded in Xero. If I have other bank accounts loaded in Xero, I can check them from this screen as well, from the drop-down menu. It pays to check these bank reconciliations at least once every GST return just to ensure we're not missing any bank transactions. I'm just going to flick now to my PowerPoint presentation and just show you sometimes we have that imported statement balance line that shows. I'm going to come back and show you how to fix some of the other queries that we may come up with. But firstly, let's look at our imported statement balance. This is an old style Xero report, but it's the same as our new bank reconciliation reports. From this, you can see the balance in Xero and the statement balance are the same, but the imported statement balance that's come from my bank, from my electronic bank feed, is not accurate. Now, sometimes there is no fix for this, and I see this especially with third-party banks. For example, SBS, Heartland Bank, and Rabobank. These can be quite common, which is quite often why our team asks you for a bank statement verification, because we can see from your bank statement that our balance is correct. So if I go back, it was 1259386. Here on my highlighted bank statement, it's 1259386. And the last transaction for that month with the closing balance. So it does actually match. In this instance, we can actually ignore the imported statement balance out line. Now we're going to go back to Xero and let's see how we go looking for things that may turn up on our bank reconciliation and maybe why it's putting it out. When I run the bank rec report, if it comes up with a line and it tells me I have a line there and I've got something missing from the 19th of April, what I can do is I can go into my account transactions within that bank account. The first thing I would do is on the right-hand side, select search. We don't have to fill out all of these boxes, but I'm going to put in here the 19th of April, and I'm going to tick the exact date because it was definitely that date it happened, and select search. The reason I do this is because it cuts down on the number of lines I'm looking at on my screen. If I kept all the lines showing and I'm scrolling down looking for information, sometimes it's hard to see amongst all the lines we're looking for. So when I find the transaction I'm looking for, what I can do is I can select that transaction and drill down into it and see where I've coded it to, what type of transaction it was. And by selecting view details, I can actually see how it came in from my bank. If I decide I've got that one completely wrong, I need to start again. From here, I can select remove and redo. If this was a bank feed transaction, it would put it straight back to our bank reconciliation screen. If it was a transaction that had been manually entered, it would remove it altogether. Another check I could make in here to see why my bank reconciliation isn't balancing. If I click on the right-hand side here, bank transaction source, it's sorting by the source. This is a demo file, so all of our transactions have been imported. In your file, the bank transaction source column should say bank feed. Now these unreconciled transactions at the top, so these ones could be causing us issues. There's a number of checks I would make here. I'll go back to my reconcile screen. Do I have this transaction at the top? Do I have that showing for the 1st of May in my reconcile screen? If I don't, here it is here. But if it's a transaction that doesn't show on my reconcile screen, well, how did it get there? That's when I need to click down into it to see what's happened. It may be I've manually created a transaction in Xero, which does happen from time to time. All I would need to do is select the options and remove and redo. And that will take it out of my bank transactions. Another thing I could be looking for in here is when I'm looking at my search and I was drilling down to a date, I could be looking at doubled up transactions. There may be a line at the top that has the orange unreconciled as well as a green reconciled for exactly the same amount on exactly the same day. Sometimes when we're reconciling in Xero, maybe we get interrupted and we press cancel. When we press cancel, we think we've gone away from that and we're starting again. Xero has actually saved that transaction in the background and is going to put an extra transaction in. So this is why we do ask you to check from time to time in your bank transactions, just to ensure you don't have unreconciled lines. Another example of an unreconciled line is if we have more than one bank account loaded in Xero and we've selected a transfer. So we're transferring between our bank accounts. I may have selected transfer in one account, but I haven't accepted it in the other account. This will also be an unreconciled transaction line. That's all we're going to cover on bank reconciliations, but there's lots to think about there and lots to check. Basically, it's starting with our bank reconciliation report and just making sure everything balances. At a minimum, I'd be doing this every GST return. Otherwise, I'd be doing it, depending on the amount of transactions you have, at least once a month. As always, if you're unsure how to fix this, please get in contact with us through our software help desk, email, or by phone. Now, another check to make is their GST returns. When we're filing our GST and Xero's taking care of it all in the background for us, we need to make sure that we've locked our GST return. We are going to check this when we are checking your data for your annual accounts. This will tell us that the information you filed with Inland Revenue matches what is in your Xero. When we go to GST returns, they will show like this. And we can see that we've got one return there that needs action. I'm going to go back to Xero. This demo file, I have set up the GST returns, but we don't see a current return ready. If we had a current return ready, it would show as per the previous screen with a line here that we just select. I'm going to look at the one we have here so far to open the GST report. When I say locking the GST return, what I mean is when we come into our GST return, we've found out what we have to pay to Inland Revenue. We can see what our return looks like. We will have gone through and checked our GST audit report to make sure our coding is correct and our GST treatment is also accurate. Once I've done that and I'm happy and I'm going to file it with Inland Revenue, I'm going to save the green button at the bottom and I'm in either my audit report or I'm in my GST return tab. At the bottom, the green tab, the Save button, and I'm going to save as a final. Once I've saved as a final, I can also file this automatically with Inland Revenue through my IR. Obviously, I can't file this return yet as it's not completed. We haven't got to the end of June. But if I had completed my GST return, there would now be at the top here a blue button, File Now with my IR. Did you know that if you've selected that and you have a login to Inland Revenue through my IR, Xero automatically puts your return through to Inland Revenue. But remember, if it's a payment to make, you still need to go to your internet banking and make the payment. So as part of our annual accounts process, our client service administrators will send you checklists to ensure we receive all of your information. These may include any asset purchases or copies of invoices for large repairs, insurance invoices, and the like. Xero makes it easy to attach an invoice or remittance to any transaction within Xero. If you're on a subscription of Xero that allows you to enter invoices and bills, this can be completed during the entering of the bill or the invoice. And remember, by clicking on the top right here, my Automate Bill Entry, I can email my bills to pay directly into Xero, and they will have a copy of that invoice attached. Or whenever you see the piece of paper icon within Xero, this means you can drag and drop or attach a copy of the invoice. An example of this, I'm entering a bill. If you have this function, not everybody has this function, but I'm entering a bill. I have this piece of paper icon here, which tells me I can attach a copy of my invoice. I can go to my File Explorer, I can grab my document and drag it to that screen and release my mouse. And it's now uploaded a copy of that file. We can see here the piece of paper has the number 1. If I'm using Xero as a cash book, so I don't have bills or invoices that I enter into Xero, I just do my coding through my bank account. I can still enter a copy of my invoice attached to that transaction. From my reconcile screen, if I select on the right-hand side, add details, this now opens the transaction where I may be doing some split coding. But here is my piece of paper icon. So again, I can grab my invoice and drop it to that screen and it's attached. Or if I've already coded something and it's sitting in my account transactions as coded, but I've decided that I want to put a copy against it, I could go into the transaction just by selecting it. Again, here's my piece of paper icon. Then I can grab my invoice and attach it there as well. And again, I know it's attached. I can see the number 1 beside my piece of paper. And I can also see in my transactions, I now have the piece of paper icon showing that I have something attached. Also within Xero, there's the filing system. Not many people know about it, but it's actually a great way to put your documents into Xero so they're all in one place. On the top left-hand side, where your company name will show in the dark blue, if I select that and select Files, This now shows us a filing system, which shows a little like your email inbox. Here we go here. I've added a folder here called annual account information. I can add lots more folders if I wanted to. In my inbox, on the right-hand side here, is an email address. I could copy that email address and put all my documents in there. For example, it could be my monthly bank statements. It could be my insurance renewal documents. But I could email them directly in here, and they'll be sitting ready for our team to have a look at them. Or again, I can go back from my downloads on my computer or from my email, and I can just grab what I want and drop it in there. It's a great way just to get some information into Xero and saves having to put all your information into our green folders. But if you do this, please let our team know to go looking for this information within your files. When our team checks your annual account process documents into our system to be processed, one of the first things they'll do is lock your Xero. That just enables you to not be able to enter any information back into that financial year that we're about to prepare for you. You can also lock your Xero by using the lock dates. You could do this at the end of a GST period or at the end of a month. Under accounting, if I select advanced, on the right-hand side here, I have financial settings, and then I have lock dates. So I can set these lock dates for whenever I like and select save to update. As a rule, when our team extract your data, we will lock your data so nothing can be backdated. It's just a handy safeguard just to ensure the integrity of your data. As always, if you need any help, feel free to contact our software support help desk, either via email or by telephone. Have you seen our website or our social media channels, such as Facebook or Instagram, for our tips and tricks? Let's look at a couple now. If you have what we call a trade account loaded to Xero, your farmlands, your PGG, or your farm source accounts, a quick and easy way to reconcile these accounts is by using the cash coding screen. Particularly those trade accounts, they come in with one line per line item on your statement, and it can get very time consuming going through using the reconcile screen and coding everything. A quick way to do this is by selecting cash coding. This now shows us everything that's in our reconcile screen, but on a smaller scale. But I can select here what I want to go to the same code. If I select the ticks down the left-hand side, now under my account, I can put in the code I'm wanting and select enter. And now it's copied that into all of those lines I've ticked. A great way to save time and makes it far more efficient. As part of the reconciling process, another tip that we suggest is to set up some bank rules. This saves you time in the long run with reconciling everything for something that may happen on a regular basis. For example, let's look at this bank fee here that's come through. We can see here, Xero is suggesting what we should code it to based on the last time we had something come through with the same information. What I'm going to do now is select options and create a bank rule. What this does is when the feed comes into Xero from your bank, Xero is going to go looking for this information. So we could say that we want Xero to look for the payee is going to equal this person and the description equals the fee. I'm going to type in the contact I want to put it against. Then down here, I want to say every time I want it to be coded to bank fees. If I select that, I want to make everything as quick and efficient as I can going forward. So under the set the reference, I'm going to change that to say from the reference that comes through from the bank. Now I'm going to run this rule on my main bank account, or I could run it on all bank accounts. And then just what I'm going to name it. If I select save, now when I go back to my reconcile screen, it now shows like this. And it says apply rule. All I need to do is select OK. If I'm unsure what that rule was, I can simply click on it to see where it's going to be coded to. Just to double check, I want it's going to the right place. Well, that's all we have time for today. But thank you very much for coming on to our presentation. Now, if at any stage you need any help, please feel free to contact us. We are here to help you in any way that we can, either via our email or via our telephone number. And please ask for our software support team. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.